There are ongoing debate about the gender gap in Japan, and I do hope that there will be a female prime minister soon. The sooner, the better for this country. And in the business, women should be managers and top executives in larger numbers, and otherwise, this country would be lagging behind other nations in today's world, and that would be really bad for Japanese society in general. Having said that, I do feel that the Japanese women have always exhibited an incredible degree of creativity over the years. And while the men held politically important positions, it it was women who created really valuable works, and this aspect which I discussed in my book, The Way of Nagomi, is very important, I think. And for example, Lady Murasaki, the author of Tale of Genji, was a woman, and she was, in a really difficult position because her husband passed away at an early stage, and she became under the protection of Michinaga Fujiwara, who was the most powerful man at the time. In those times, you couldn't simply type in your text into your smartphone. You needed to get hold of really precious papers, and they were really expensive. And because of Fujiwara's protection, Lady Murasaki could get hold of these papers, and therefore she could finish writing the Tale of Genji. Now, at that time, of course, Fujiwara was much more powerful compared to Lady Murasaki in terms of economic and social status. But today, almost nobody remembers Fujiwara Michinaga because he was just a political figure, and his cultural contributions were minimum. So Lady Murasaki used the indigenous Japanese language, in kana moji expressions, and this is something technical. But at the time, the kind of language that men used in official papers and formal documents were different from the ones used by female writers. And then the letters used by the female writers were closer to the indigenous Japanese word, Yamato kotoba. So, although the men held socially high positions, it was women who wrote something closer to the heart. And the same pattern can be seen in the Meiji era, where Ichio Higuchi wrote the first genuinely verbal expressions in the modern literature, such as Takekurabe and the Nikorie. Two masterpieces coming from a really miraculous 1 year of Ichio Higuchi's life. And, at the time, Ichio Higuchi was economically impoverished, and she was not, she did not have any socially recognizable status. But she could get closer to the generic human truth, while men held more high social positions, like most notably Ogai Mori. Ogai Mori was a man who had really held a high position in the military medical service, and she became actually the top man of the medical service, and he graduated from the University of Tokyo, a prestigious university, and he kind of prided himself on being a top official as well as a prolific writer. But I should say, seeing from the benefit of time, probably, arguably, Ichio Higuchi was a much better writer than Ogai Mori. And although Ogai Mori had held a higher social status, that didn't actually help him write great novel. So, that same pattern is being repeated over and over again in Japan. So it is regrettable that the Japanese women have traditionally held less active roles in society. That is the loss for Japanese society in general. But at the same time, it could be argued that because women have been less occupied with the maintenance of social order and the keeping of appearances in social ranks, they are freer to express their creative genius, and they did that. And Reiji Murasaki and Ichio Higuchi were two primary examples. And so, yes, we should have a female prime minister. The sooner the better. Yes, we should have more female company executives, more members of parliament, female members of parliament. That is, beyond argument. I mean, that is something that we should do. But at the same time, I do think that it is very important to recognize the fact that Japanese women, because despite the social difficulties, have always expressed really great talents for expression, much better than men in most times. And that is something that we need to take care of when we envision a Japanese society where women have more active roles than the regrettable status quo at present.